We're live. Hello, everybody.
Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to attempt 2, part 2.
Take
Take 2 of part 2. We left up yet last week.
or muffins today.
Say again?
No pancakes or muffins today.
No pancakes or muffins, just straight into the action, because obviously Facebook didn't enjoy us talking about pancakes and muffins. So we'll dive straight into pretty much where we started last time, I think, so we can catch everybody up to speed. And the week before this, or the week before that, we were talking in part 1, we were talking about the enrollment into, or the principles of enrollment into group coaching or workshops and group events, if you're running them, thinking about running and want to run them. And in this video, we're talking about the principles of actually running the events themselves, things that you might want to consider, things that you might want to think about, or really things you do want to think about if you're going to be running these groups to make your life easier, make the sessions more easeful, more impactful, more enjoyable, and more helpful for you and the people that are in the group. So where do you want to start, Lisa, with this? Would you like to begin?
You waited for me just to take a swig of coffee then.
See that.
Yeah, do you know what? I can't remember what we even talked about in the last session, but just the things that are coming to mind. If I think about like running a group, running a workshop, running a free event, some of the things that I hadn't known about until I did them were really practical things, like having someone to help you. So Sam and I take this for granted all the time, because there's two of us. Often when we're doing group events, there's Sam and I in it. So we can be set up as co-hosts, and then one of us can keep an eye on the waiting room. One of us can be getting the breakout rooms ready whilst the exercise or the process is being described. So just having someone, like if you work solo, get someone in to help you. Put a request out there in your community to say, can someone come and help me with the logistics? Can someone come and do the admin for me? And that's, managing the waiting room, managing the breakout rooms, that kind of thing. Making sure that I've hit record. Like that's their job for the day. And it just takes away all of that having to remember all the other stuff, and it has you get really present so that you can deliver the session and facilitate the group. Something like that is having some ground rules set up at the beginning so that people know what to expect in the call, what the etiquette is for the call. So can they use the chat box? Can they just shout out, or do they have to stick their hand up? Do they use the raise hand function? Does everyone know how to do that? Turn their microphones off if you don't want a lot of interference in the background. Keep the videos on so that people are there and people are present. All that kind of stuff, like the things that I didn't know, and the workshop ran anyway, but it could have gone smoother if I'd have known that up front, because I could have prepped for that. Yeah. So they would be my really simple, practical bits of advice.
Yeah, definitely. I think if I was to continue on with that, there are some things that, because we've both run group stuff separately and together, right? And I definitely want to re-emphasize that point, like having somebody there, especially if it's your first time or first few times, it can feel a little bit scary. It can feel a little bit nerve-wracking, which is totally cool, totally normal. Having somebody there can really help alleviate that, and you can kind of offload anything you feel you don't want to be focusing on. So that has been really helpful. Although sometimes I wonder how much of a help rather than a hindrance I am in these things, but generally speaking,
I can answer that one. I can answer.
No, you can't. Something that I think has been really helpful, and actually that we've really begun to implement is grounding, like taking some time to get everybody present, to set their intention for the call, to set their intention of how they're going to show up. And what tends to happen is that when people come into a group, sometimes, not always, but sometimes what can happen is, oh, it's a group, there's less focus on me. I can do this, or I could do that as well. And I'm kind of half listening. And if we really want to be an impactful coach in a group, grounding and intention setting can be super powerful. And it can look something as simple as, like we do, Lisa, don't we? I mean, it's really just close your eyes, breathe, bit of guided intention setting. What is your intention for this session?
How are you going to show up? How do you want to be? How do you want to listen? What are you going to do with the distractions that come into your mind? Right. So it's really getting everybody on the same page. And for us as coaches, it helps us to just breathe and relax and get present and be focused and kind of get on the same page as everybody else. It brings everybody into the room. And I think it's just, if we're in a group environment, especially on Zoom, it can be super, super transformative. And you can do with it what you like. You can put in whatever you like, really. The other thing that we do is, and I've seen the power in, is having a really, I'm not saying for a second that we have to have a minute by minute plan on exactly what's going to happen in the session, because
we definitely don't have that.
We definitely don't have that, and I could see how that wouldn't necessarily be helpful, because we want a bit more space than that. But to have an idea of what is going to happen within that session, the kind of idea of times you have things, what you're going to be covering. To when you're in the moment, often things can be forgotten. So to just have something that's going to jog your memory and make the session as thorough and as clear and as possible is absolutely helpful. There's a balance to be had, like we said, because you can over plan these things if you're somebody that's kind of worried about not getting it right or whatever. You don't necessarily want to fall into that space, but just to have a rough plan as to what's going to happen can be super, super helpful.
I want to share, Sam, if I can as well, like our process for doing this, because I think that would be helpful for people to hear, is we don't have a really detailed plan when we send out the invites to our events, right? So we're listening all the time, and we're in conversation all the time, and we're hearing what's needed. Like, what's challenging in this profession at the moment? What are coaches really needing some support with? And then we're like, it would be cool to do something on this. So our next step is to pick a date that's usually around 6 to 8 weeks out, if it's a free event. Pick a date, and then get a little bit of context around it. Like, what is this for? Like, how is this going to be useful for people? What are they going to be leaving this workshop with? And so what are the benefits, essentially, is what I'm saying. What are the benefits of attending this workshop going to be? And that's enough. Like, know how many people you want in there, whether you're going to cap it or not, that kind of stuff. We talked a little bit about that, I think, in the last enrollment video, but that's enough to get you started. And then you can start enrolling, and that's where the real work is. Like, that's where your focus and attention should be going. Like, you have an idea of what the workshop's going to be about and how it's going to serve people. You have a date, and you know the number of people that's going to be in and the price of it, or whether it's going to be free. And then you get into action, like enrolling.
Yep.
And then that's where most of the work is. That's where a lot of our time and energy would be going. And then you can go back and pad out like what that workshop or what that event's going to look like. And like Sam says, we don't have a script that's minute by minute, but we have a loose agenda. So it might be like, in the morning session, we're going to do an introduction and some grounding. We're going to do a breakout room exercise, and that's going to be on this. And if there's 2 of you running it, it's like, you say this bit, right? Like you cover the introduction to it, and I'll share a story on this. So Sam and I kind of know like what we're both doing. We know our roles within that space. And we have that. And then it's like, if it feels like the conversation needs to go somewhere else in the event, then we have that fluidity to be like, okay, let's park some of that agenda. This is important. So we have flexibility to move stuff around in the day. And so having enough breaks in there as well is another one, because that can add in a little bit of like a buffer for you. If one exercise goes over and you've got no breaks, 1, everybody's going to be knackered and not listening. And 2, you've got absolutely nowhere to go if you're going to run out of time. So it's like having a loose agenda, being flexible with your agenda, and creating enough space to play around with it. And then what was the other one? Not overstuffing.
Yeah.
So that laying out the agenda can really help you understand whether, this is going to feel like a heavy day. we've got too much in here. And we've done that before. We've really seen like, we've got this out, and then when we've gone through it and done it ourselves, it's like, wow, that was kind of deep.
Yeah.
So I don't think we want too deep exercises in here. We need to bring some lightness into the morning session if we're going to dive in. So what do we want to take out and move into the next event?
Yeah, totally. And I think it's important to say as well, like, this has been learned through experience, right? It's not like this is an exact science. Like that. We've learned through experience, and that's totally okay. But there might be times, and there probably will be times we're running things and it's like, actually, we could have done this differently, we could have done that differently. But that's where we get to learn from our experience. That's the perfect thing about coaching, is that we kind of learn as we go. What was I going to say? There was something else I wanted to add. Completely gone. Yeah, it's completely gone.
Was it about breaks?
No.
Was it about overstuffing?
Oh, no, that was it. Oh, it's very, very
Then
simple.
getting back behind the scenes,
This is
understanding
how
what
it goes.
happens when we're
We have a rough idea of what this is going to look like, but this is what I was going to say. Our intention before we start enrolling, like, and this was true for our school, right? Our UK School of Coaching. We had an intention. We knew that the coaches in the school were going to be making money. They were going to be growing their businesses, and they were going to be growing as coaches and people. Like, we knew that was our intention to have that. So as long as you've got your intention clear, the kind of the how-to, the steps, the processes, they kind of appear as you go. And we've really seen that. I mean, we've seen that in all of our events, but again, we see that in the school too. So we haven't got everything absolutely planned out, but our intention is very clear. And so when you've got that, the next steps tend to look after themselves. But it's just not a reason. You don't know everything that's going to happen. Is not a reason to not enroll. Because like you said, Lisa, in that enrollment process, you're getting to know people. You're getting to coach them. You're getting to know them. You're building relationships. So you're going to start having an idea of what needs to go in that event. You know, I'm kind of repeating what you're saying, but I'm just saying it's like.
No, it's good though. It's all good stuff. It can go in, if it's said in a slightly different way. It might have been missed however I've said it. So it's good. I like hearing the same message in different ways. But I also want to add, like, we have a coach. Right? Well, so
we have three.
Yeah. It's like that if the step doesn't appear, because I hear what you're saying, Sam, around, for me, the step appears in terms of the content, right? Because I'm always listening, like, oh, we're seeing a lot about comparison right now. So we need to address that, right? That's going to be an obvious next step for us. We need to start talking to people around their relationship with being in a group with other people. So that, in terms of the next step, in terms of content and where we might want to take some of the sessions, that's really clear and that's revealed itself. But in terms of, like, when I was starting out and running events, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I set the date and I had a loose outline, and then I'd show up and see what happened. But I didn't know how to get it from, I didn't know how to go from, here's my date, here's my idea. How do I really enroll into that? I didn't know those steps. And I didn't know, how do I then go from the event to creating individual conversations? And I didn't know those steps. How do I go from having those individual conversations to creating them into paying clients? So that was all really fuzzy. And that's what our coaches have helped us with over the years and still help us with. Like, I see those steps from, like, they're kind of given to me, right? That's like the mentoring piece. That's the guiding us to consider things that we just might not know because we haven't walked this path before. So I just wanted to throw that in there as well, because it's not, I relate to the word step in, like, the steps of how to do something might not reveal itself. You might just not know that. And they might.
Yeah. So get a coach.
Yeah. We don't care if it's us, but make sure that you're supported. Yeah, because otherwise it's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard, and it's why so many really talented coaches leave this industry, because they're like, it must be me.
Yeah.
I just must not be cut out for this. I don't like entrepreneurship. It's not what I thought. And it's like,
Well, and we see even the most successful coaches leaving money on the table, like leaving money and opportunity on the table because they haven't seen something that they could have done. You know, and this isn't a like you're missing out if you don't have coaching kind of thing. But it also kind of is. Like, that's just the truth of it, is that when you have a coach supporting you, you see things that you wouldn't see otherwise. There are opportunities that you wouldn't have otherwise. And there's opportunities to make more money as a coach that you wouldn't see otherwise. And I think that is really important to talk to. Saying it as it is.
Yeah. We talked the other day about coaching space just feeling really sacred as well. You know, regardless of whether you're doing a workshop, an event, or a group or anything. It's like, just for me, it feels really like a special space where I can take anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Cool. So, I mean, that, I think we said plenty. We said lots. Hopefully that's helpful.
Hopefully Facebook hasn't cut us off.
Yeah, hopefully we're not just talking to ourselves again, and in 2 minutes time we'll find out that the video is 30 seconds long. But yeah, look, if you're a coach that's thinking about running programs, wants to run programs or workshops or group coaching events, you know, this is our invitation to you, is to put your questions in this comment section. Like, don't have that question be unanswered, because if there is a question there for you, if there are uncertainties, if there are things you want to speak to and talk about and explore, put them in these comments and we will come back to you and we'll make sure you have answers to those questions. So we're here to serve and have this community be about that. So don't hold back.
Yeah. And we're going to be running, like, we're in the very early stages of planning this, but we're going to be running a group or a series in the summer. So, like, watch us, right? Observe what we're doing, because we do what we teach. It's not like we're saying do something and then we're going out and doing something else. And so, like, pay attention. That's my invitation. Really have a look and see, what are you seeing in these emails? What are you seeing in these messages? And that's how we fill our groups. So it's there, it's all there for you. You have no reason why you cannot succeed in this if you're open to seeing it.
And look out for the invite, because it is going to be awesome. The events that we've got coming up well, I won't give too many details away, because just in case we change it. I'm good at doing that. I'm very good at doing committing and then realizing I've committed to the wrong thing. But just to say that, look out for it, because this event is going to be absolutely brilliant. We're designing at the moment, and there's so much stuff in there for new and experienced coaches that kind of want to up their game and make more money, right? We're going to start talking about that more. So is there anything else that we need to say, Lisa, or can I go and get some lunch?
Go and get some lunch.
Brilliant. All right, guys. Well, your invitation is there. Lots of love to you all, and we'll catch you in the next one.
See you later.